It's Friday, October 22nd, and this is now on HNN.
We are hearing from Alec Baldwin following the deadly accidental shooting on a film set. I'm Anthony Purra with the actor's statement and the latest details on the tragedy.
We're going to talk about a new task force that's meant to shine light on missing and murdered Native Hawaiian women.
My goal was to take this mess and turn it into a message.
Well, for the first time since 2019, the first UH home game with fans is about to take place.
The biggest difference is the fact that you have to be vaccinated to come.
Halloween spending could hit a record this year. I'm Naomi Ruckham with what Americans are buying and why supplies may be limited in some places.
These stories, plus even more Halloween fun, that's coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon. Thank you for watching This Is Now. We want to get started with this still developing story. One of Hollywood's biggest stars involved with a deadly shooting on a movie set.
Yeah, it left one person dead and another seriously injured, and police in New Mexico are investigating whether actor Alec Baldwin's prop gun may have contained live ammunition. Anthony Purra reports.
The unidentified 911 caller asked for help, saying 2 people had been accidentally shot on the set of the Western film Rust near Santa Fe, New Mexico. Alec Baldwin, the film's co-producer and star, fired a prop gun on set, resulting in the death of the movie's cinematographer, 42-year-old Halyna Hutchins. Director Joel Souza was injured. According to Variety magazine, the Los Angeles prop union IATSE 44 sent an email to members saying the gun contained a live single round and the prop crew working in New Mexico was not part of their union. CBS News has been unable to confirm that information. Movie set weapons experts say even blanks used in prop guns can be deadly.
A blank is a round but without a projectile. So there's still a lot of force in there, there's still a lot of pressure and can be dangerous if not used safely.
There are also specific protocols to make sure no one is injured on set.
Nowadays, all weapons are checked, barrels are checked before any blanks are put into the weapon. There are lots of other protocols in place, including actor training beforehand. There'll be rehearsals.
Hutchins Union, the International Cinematographers Guild, called her death a terrible loss and said it supports a full investigation.
I think word incredible is not to even begin to describe her personality. Really generous, really talented, really upbeat.
Baldwin is cooperating with authorities and says he has reached out to Hutchins' husband. He said he is heartbroken about the incident, issuing a statement on Twitter Friday morning saying there are no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Halyna Hutchins, a wife, mother, and deeply admired colleague of ours. Production on the film has been halted as the investigation intensifies. Anthony Purra, CBS News.
The state is reporting 134 new COVID-19 cases today, pushing the statewide total of cases since the pandemic began over 83,000. The state also confirmed 3 more coronavirus-related fatalities. For a complete island-by-island breakdown of all today's cases being reported, head to those HNN digital platforms. DOH says it's already ordered more than 31,000 doses of Pfizer's vaccine for kids. FDA approval is expected soon. Those doses would cover more than a third of children ages 5 to 11 across the state.
The State Department of Health is authorizing Moderna and Johnson & Johnson boosters. Moderna boosters are recommended at least 6 months after the second dose, and Moderna's third dose is half of the initial one. For J&J's boosters, people are being asked to wait at least 2 months after the first shot. Mixing and matching is allowed, and Pfizer's additional dose was approved last month. Boosters are recommended for those 65 and older, anyone 18 and up who has underlying medical conditions or works in a high-risk or long-term care setting. DOH Director Dr. Libby Char discussed the development with the Star Advertiser.
I'll preface it by saying that this is still early in the pandemic when it comes to things like the booster shots and the mixing and matching. But what we're seeing is that the mRNA vaccines are actually very, very similar. And so if you got Pfizer for your first shot and you get Moderna for your booster, that should be fine. And likewise, if you did it the other way, that should be fine. The Johnson & Johnson is interesting because what the studies are showing is that for those who got Johnson & Johnson, if they get a booster with a different shot, it seems to boost the antibodies to a higher level than if they get a booster with Johnson & Johnson. That being said, I don't think just looking at antibody numbers is the be-all, end-all. What we still don't know is, perhaps boosting with Johnson & Johnson will give you longer-lasting immunity. We don't know about the T-cell immunity as well. So it's interesting to see, but at least at this point, all of the boosters seem to be safe. All of them seem to confer some advantage in raising antibody levels. And so the recommendation is that people who are in those categories, 65 and older, 18 and older who are at high risk, and 18 and older who have frequent institutional or occupational exposure, go get your booster shot.
Community advocates are demanding justice for missing and murdered Native Hawaiian women and girls by shining a light on the problem. Halyna Richardson tells us about a new task force.
Created by the legislature, and it follows a national trend where advocates are gathering data on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Tonight, advocates and lawmakers say the first step is education and bringing to light a problem that is too often hidden.
I didn't know he was selling me.
Leinani Yahiku says in 2017 she was beaten by her husband and high school sweetheart, and for 6 months she was sold for sex.
If you don't sleep with this person, then you're gonna get it.
Commoditized for money and drugs, the violence kept hidden.
That's so normal with our culture. Brush it under the rug, right? Keep it in the family.
Now she's determined to be a voice as a newly formed task force studies the issue of missing and murdered Native Hawaiian women and girls and searches for data on victims of trafficking and domestic violence.
This is what's happening in our communities.
State Representative Stacelyn Eli of Nanakuli sponsored the bill that created the task force and says she personally knows more than a dozen people who've been trafficked.
A lot of our women and girls that come from families that are trapped in poverty, and for many of them this is the only way for them to eat.
In 2018, 21-year-old Melissa Estoy vanished. Her vehicle found at Zablan Beach in Nanakuli with the keys in the ignition and her phone in the car.
What happened to her? 1 minute she was here and the next she was gone.
Now, family of 6-year-old Isabella Ariel Kalua of Waimanalo is desperate to keep the spotlight on her mysterious disappearance more than a month ago.
How do we protect our women and girls from being left vulnerable?
I'm not going to be silent.
Yahiku planned her escape from the abuse and wants others to be heard.
My goal was to take this mess and turn it into a message. That's my goal.
Now, that task force is co-chaired by the Hawaii State Commission on the Status of Women and the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and it includes other agencies. There was no additional money attached to the task force, but they are looking for financial resources. Halyna Richardson, Hawaii News Now.
Well, coming up tonight on the NBC Nightly News that airs right here on KHNL, the supply chain crisis deepens. Obviously, a very important story to us here in the islands. Lester Holt was invited to get a first-hand look at what dock workers are dealing with.
Tonight from the Port of Long Beach, California, a closer look at the supply chain issues the country is facing. We'll hear from some of the folks responsible for offloading these ships and learn why it's not just what's happening here at the port that may be slowing things to their final destination. That's tonight on NBC Nightly News.
During CNN's town hall Thursday, President Biden said the U.S. is committed to coming to Taiwan's defense if China launches an attack. Will Ripley has more on the international developments.
One of the things that has helped create a peaceful, sustainable coexistence between the island of Taiwan and mainland China has been America's policy of strategic ambiguity. The United States not saying for sure whether it would send U.S. troops to come to Taiwan's defense if mainland China were to try to take back this island, which they have claimed as their own territory for more than 70 years, since the end of China's civil war. For many years, the United States had formal diplomatic ties with Taipei. But about 40 years ago, that changed when the People's Republic of China, the government in Beijing, became the officially acknowledged Chinese government that had formal diplomatic relations with the United States. Here in Taipei, it became an unofficial sort of a friendship, if you will, where the United States agreed to continue to support Taiwan by selling weapons and other things that can help this island protect itself. But the U.S. never saying for sure whether they would involve U.S. troops to try to defend this self-governing democracy if the communist mainland China government tried to attack and take it back. So then when President Biden was asked at the CNN town hall what would happen if the mainland tried to invade Taiwan, would the U.S. come to Taiwan's defense, his answer surprised some people. Listen.
You know, you hear people saying Biden wants to start a new Cold War with China. I don't want a Cold War with China. I just want to make China understand that we are not going to step back. We are not going to change any of our views.
So are you saying that the United States would come to Taiwan's defense if China attacked?
Yes, we have a commitment to do that.
The White House walking back those comments by President Biden, saying that there is no change to the long-standing U.S. policy regarding Taiwan, that the strategic ambiguity does stay in place. A statement coming out of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Beijing says, quote, China urges the U.S. to strictly abide by the One China principle and the provisions of the China-U.S. 3 joint communiques, be cautious in its words and deeds on the Taiwan issue, and refrain from sending any wrong signals to the separatist forces of Taiwan independence so as not to seriously damage China-U.S. relations, peace, and stability across the Taiwan Strait. But given that this is a time of rising tension where China has been flying its warplanes near Taiwan's self-declared air defense identification zone, and the United States has been stepping up its own military activities and naval activities in the region, there's a lot of concern that there could be some sort of a miscalculation, some sort of misunderstanding that could lead to a conflict. Will Ripley, CNN, Taipei.
Queen Elizabeth is back at Windsor Castle, recovering after spending the night in a London hospital, her first overnight stay in 8 years. Buckingham Palace announcing late Thursday night she was there for some preliminary investigations, adding she's in good spirits but providing no additional medical details. The hospital visit was only announced after she returned home and came a day after the Queen cancelled a visit to Northern Ireland.
Not to cover up health problems, but they will tend to want to keep it quiet as to the Queen's health until or unless it's something very significant.
Now we're told the Queen was well enough to resume light work yesterday afternoon.
A reminder for Hawaii residents, starting this Sunday, you will need to dial the 808 area code to make all local phone calls. The change is necessary for the implementation of the new National Suicide Prevention Line, which will use 988 and requires everyone to dial 10 digits. If you do not dial local numbers with the area code, your call may not go through. The first UH football home game with fans since 2019 is happening this weekend. Our Casey Lunn is in Manoa to show us how the game day experience might look.
Aloha from the Clarence T.C. Ching Athletics Complex. A beautiful day here in Manoa. Excited for a great Saturday of football tomorrow. We want to introduce Vince Baltimore, Associate Athletic Director with us, and Dan Meisenzahl from the University of Hawaii. I want to start with you, Dan, and the difference that fans can expect as those 1,000 fans come back here for the first time to a home game in Manoa. Well, the first time in a long time in Manoa. What's going to be a little different for them?
Well, I think the biggest difference is the fact that you have to be vaccinated to come. We live in this COVID-19 world, so you have to be fully vaccinated to come. They should have already downloaded the Lumicite UH app, uploaded their vaccination information, and when they get to campus, they'll take a health screening. You know, they get screened for possible COVID-19 exposure and symptoms. You get the all clear in the app, so when you walk in, you show the all clear, and then they take your ticket. You come on in and you enjoy the brand new facility, which is really a miracle in its own right.
It's beautiful. And Vince, I want to talk a little bit about the long road it took to get here. Once we found out in December that Aloha Stadium was not going to be where the Rainbow Warriors were going to be playing, setting up the field and really the emotional roller coaster for the student athletes, the athletics department, and their families as well.
Yeah, well, we're really grateful. I mean, from the student athletes having their families and friends attend the game, longtime season ticket holders, you know, all the supporters that we have. While it's 1,000 for this upcoming game, we do know and hope that will continue to increase over the next 2 games.
Yeah, San Diego State, Colorado State, the last 2 home games to be played here in Manoa. We'll hope for the best there, though, but we do have other good news, too. Other programs are going to have some spectators as well. Talk about that, Vince.
Yeah, so we've gotten approval for women's volleyball for the indoor events to start having fans. Women's volleyball will be the first, October 29th, so we have a limited number of fans, 500. We'll go through a similar process that we've gone through for football to allow fans to come in and cheer on a Rainbow Wahine.
Very good. Vince, Dan, thank you so much for being with us today. And we are excited to bring you that coverage. Our weekend crew, Kyle Chinen, our sports reporter, will be here in Manoa for that game tomorrow. For now, we'll send things back to you.
Well, Mark, back here in the Digital Center, I know you're very familiar with the world of sports. What kind of difference can this really make for those teams and those fans to be there in the stadium?
Oh, it's enormous. It's so critical. And credit to the UH programs, the athletic teams out there, creating their own energy, creating their own excitement. But you really can't replicate it completely in a completely empty stadium. So having family, having fans back in the stands is just going to be such a huge boost, and especially for this program. And you think back to a couple weeks ago when they beat nationally ranked, the big rival, Fresno State. That game was played without fans, and to think that's one of the signature wins of this new Todd Graham era. So to have that in place, it's just going to be so huge. And then also, too, you know, we've done stories about this where we've talked to families of the players. John Panoke, he's the father of University of Hawaii wide receiver Jonah Panoke. Jonah Panoke stayed home to play with the Rainbow Warriors because he wanted to play in front of his family and to get to this point. And so just to have that opportunity once again to get back to a point where things are looking a little bit more normal, it really is big.
And like you were just mentioning to me, so often these players are on the road and playing in packed stadiums.
Yeah, and that's been the big dichotomy throughout this entire year. The fact that they go to these away games, that they go to these big venues, and not even against, you know, powerhouse opponents. You know, they'll play somebody, and even then, just having a little bit of fans makes a big difference. And so to come back home, it's completely empty. It's such an awkward vibe. It really is trying to, you know, it almost feels like a practice in a sense when you have it like that, when you have a completely empty stadium. So to have people there, to have people back in the mix again, I think it really is going to be a big boost for them.
All right, well, let's turn it over now to Guy Hoggy to see what the weather's going to be like for that big game.
We're in for a beautiful Aloha Friday. Lots of afternoon sunshine will drive temperatures to about 87. On windward sides, we'll get occasional passing showers from time to time. But because those winds are going to be breezy, well, those showers will be moving along quickly. Insignificant rainfall totals, if any at all. Now, we're expecting a rise for the North Shore surf later this afternoon into the early evening. For the most part of the day, it's not going to be all that big. And then South Shore is going to be dropping, and the East Shores will be rising because of the wind swell kicked up by the breezy winds. Now, those winds will be stepping on the gas all the way through the weekend, and that means it's going to be very comfortable out there with some overnight and early morning windward and Mauka showers, and those breezy trends will linger all the way through Monday. Lighter winds and stickier conditions are due back on Tuesday.
Former President Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen now work on a hit podcast, and this weekend the duo will sit down for their first interview together. Here's a look at what's ahead on CBS Sunday Morning.
The podcast was your idea.
It was, you know, the way this came up, we did have a bunch of long conversations together. And I always say when I first met Bruce, he's kind of seems like surprisingly shy, considering he goes out there and sings before tens of thousands of people for hours at a time.
Yeah.
And we just ended up being in settings where we'd have these long conversations, and I thought the things we're talking about, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be an American? These were things that were just kind of popping up over a meal or a drink.
Right.
And I thought, you know what, this might be something that would be useful for folks to hear.
Because I initially thought that he had gotten the wrong number when he called me.
To do this?
Yes, and I said, okay, let me figure this out. I am a guitar-playing high school graduate from Freehold, New Jersey. And, okay, you want me to do what? You know.
Well, the nation's top infectious disease experts saying trick-or-treating should be safe for young children outdoors. And many people across the country are planning to do just that. Naomi Ruckham takes a look.
Come on, Kaden.
Angel Calamarino came to Party City to stock up on Halloween items after the pandemic put a damper on last year's celebration.
Do you feel like you're buying more than you did last year?
Definitely.
Many Americans are doing the same. The National Retail Federation expects Halloween spending to reach more than $10 billion this year, an all-time high.
Last year I only spent about $50. This year I'm up to $200 so far. So I'm excited.
Enter, beware.
Robert Lopez is also going big.
It's almost like Halloween was canceled last year, and this year I want it to be festive.
This year's festivities will include lots of trick-or-treaters dressed as superheroes. Spider-Man and Batman are both among the top 5 costumes for kids. And it's not just about humans. 1 out of 5 people are expected to put a costume on their pet.
We have over 40 different pet costume options for our pets, and they are going like gangbusters, in fact.
It seems there's a bit of pent-up excitement for Halloween.
For sure. There's a ton of pent-up excitement, I think.
Julie Rame with Party City says supply chain issues affecting retailers nationwide have created challenges for them as well.
Had to jump through a lot of hoops, creative ways of renting our own ships and crates and things. So we are thankfully in a really, really good position.
But other retailers are seeing sporadic shortages, so experts advise shopping now and not waiting. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
All right, guys, more Halloween to talk about, and we've been talking about our Halloween costume contest that's getting ready. So my mom sent me these pictures. That's me right there, Bart Simpson, paper mache head. It's made out of a bucket in egg cartons for the hair.
Excellent work.
Yeah, I think she did great. And then a paper mache, you can tell she likes paper mache, right? Paper mache Mario there, and I can't tell who's that's next to me, but a Giants baseball player.
Yeah.
But that Mario head stuck around for a while. I remember that as a kid. I loved wearing that.
How much work went into creating the headdress?
I remember her working several evenings on it, and it always, like the Mario, I remember it was like a giant balloon that she covered in paper mache, and then it came up with Mario. You guys, don't forget our Halloween costume contest. You can submit your photos on HawaiianNewsNow.com right now. We're really going to start pumping this up next week. You are playing and entering to win gift cards to the International Marketplace's eateries. Several are included, and it's a really, really, really good opportunity. You know, we were talking just a bit ago about Halloween costumes for pets, speaking of, and here are the number 1 to number 5 on that list of the top costumes for pets. Number 1, pumpkin. Number 2, hot dog.
Second place on hot dog, huh?
You know, there's a lot of dachshunds out there. 3, superhero. 4, a bumblebee. And 5, a ghost.
Yeah, a superhero works for both
kids,
adults, dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it always works, huh?
And everyone's wanting to know what Mark Carpenter's going to be. Maybe we'll have to wait and see.
Halloween takes a completely different focus now as a father, right? You have to dress up. You kind of have theme costumes. So, we're working on something.
Yeah, just pick one of every. I'll put it on the list there.
Yeah, you get a ton of options. And then Halloween is in full swing at Fort Shafter Elementary. Alloon Farms set up a pumpkin patch at the school this morning. Very cool, very creative. Now kids got to jump in on the fun. They get the pumpkins, and they also got to decorate them and, see what it's like. And it really is fun. Where do you stand on decorating the pumpkins? Are you more of a carver?
Or you have to carve.
Instead of painting, huh?
Yeah, well, I can't paint anyway, so not a good carver either, but at least, the mess-ups are more forgivable when you carve.
Very good. Some healthy pumpkins.
Yeah, you guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now on this TGIF Aloha Friday. Thank you very much, Mark Carpenter, for filling in for Ashley all week long here on This Is Now. He's going to be back at first at 4 on KHNL. You won't want to miss it.
Happy Friday.